What's up, everybody? We got a juicy session for you here today. We are playing at the win 510 with a $20 straddle on sometimes at the WSOP. And for the first hand tonight, I wake up with Queen Jack offsuit on the button. We are playing pretty short-handed here, just a 4 or 5 max game going on right now. It does fold around to me on the button, and I'm going to be opening up to $50 with the $20 straddle on. It does fold all the way to the straddle, and they are actually going to be putting in the call. So we're going to go heads up to a flop of Queen 7 deuce 2 diamonds. Do not have a diamond in my hand. That is fine. My opponent does put in the check, and just thinking about where I am here in my range with my Queen X, I do have Queen Jack. My opponent is not going to be having Ace Queen. I've played with this player before. They are more than capable, and they know they're going to be 3-betting Ace Queen here in this spot 100% of the time. So they can't have King Queen. So I'm basically only being outkicked by one hand here currently. And like I said, after my opponent does check here, I am on the button. I'm going to be putting out a C bet here on the flop. I'm going to just make it $40 to go. My opponent pretty much snap calls here on the flop. So we're going to be going to a turn, and it comes a rubber ducky, deuce of spades. Kind of weird card here. Obviously, they could have some deuce X here, being in the straddle and only having to defend $30. So I have to be a little bit careful here. But then the tables do turn, actually. They say, you're not going to be the aggressor anymore. I'm going to take over. And that's exactly what they do. They actually donk and lead out for $30. But this $30 bet is really just super small here. We're already almost at $200 in the middle. So this $30 bet is like, what, 15% of the pot? I don't know. You ladies and gentlemen can do the math at home. But it's just a really super small bet. And with that being said, I know what they're trying to do. They're just trying to lead here. Do a little block small bet, pot control, etc. There's a whole bunch of other reasons why I'm doing it, but I'm just saying some of them. But yeah, I'm not having it. I'm just going to ignore that this bet even happened here. Like, I'm not just going to call here and then have to play rivers and let them see a river for free. Nope. If you want to get to the river, you're going to have to call those raise. So in position, I go pretty massive here. I make it $140 to go, basically just betting the size that I would have bet if they never donked anyway. So pretty much it's perfectly fine. But yeah, that is roughly 4 to 5x there of their donk lead here. And they think about it for a couple of seconds, and they do actually come along with the call. And we go to the river, and it comes the 9 of spades. So diamonds did brick out here. My opponent does actually put in a check. And I'm thinking here with Queen Jack, should I actually bet here? And with them donking and just diamonds leading out this time around, I do elect to just go to showdown. And let's actually see what my opponent was donking so I can just have an idea of what they're doing this with. So I do decide to check it back, and they actually do show the ace 7 offsuit. So they did have second best pair, top kicker on the board. So I can see why they were trying to just do that little donk lead on the turn and everything like that, because they know I'm going to see bet this flop a lot. Perfectly fine. I understand what they're doing. But yeah, I'm just really happy that I do put in that raise on the turn to get some extra money in the middle. And we do take down the first pot of the night. Next hand for the session, we wake up with pocket eights, the snowman, my second favorite hand in cutoff. The $50 straddle is on once again. It does fold all the way around to me in cutoff. Still short-handed. I do open up to $50. Small blind actually puts in the call, but big blind has other plans here this time. They decide to put in the 3-bet squeeze. They make it $250 to go. And that's roughly like a 12.5 big blind 3-bet squeeze. No problem. I'm still going to be defending my eights this time here. I do actually decide to put in the call. And small blind actually puts in the fold. So we actually be going heads up to a flop in this 3-bet pot of Queen 6-3 rainbow. So I do have pocket eights, and I do have just one overcard, and my ladies on the board. So just have to hope that they don't have that. And my opponent on this rainbow board does decide to put out the C bet. They make it $160 to go, roughly 33%, give or take, of the pot. And not going to be going anywhere here with pocket eights yet. We do have a pair. We could be ahead of a lot of hands that are going to be 3-bet squeezing here. So I do elect to put in a call. We go to the turn, and it comes the 3 of spades. So we have a rainbow board here on the turn. No flush draws or anything out there. It's good, but I would have rather just call it an 8 board corner pocket on the turn, right? But hey, at least we could still possibly have the best hand. But then I see my opponent start to grab some chips, and I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. They're definitely going to be loading up a bet here. And they do just that. They continue this story, and on the turn, they're going to be putting out a bet of $600, and really big size in here, and just not much for me to do. I could call here sometimes, but this time I am going to just lay it down and pick a better spot to defend to this 3-bet squeeze and double barrel. So we're going to move on to the next hand. And for this hand, we have 10-7 of hearts and the $20 straddle. Button opens up to $60. We are still playing pretty short-handed here, and it does fold all the way around to me, and I do put in the call for $60. So we're going to be going heads up to a flop of 10-6 deuce rainbow. We do flop top pair with almost the weakest kicker possible, so got to keep that in mind here. And also there is one heart on the board. We can go backdoor hearts for a flush. And being in the straddle here, I am going to check my option to the pre-flop aggressor. And after I do check, they do put out a bet of $70. And you could call here, but this time I decided to switch it up a little bit. We're going to be going for the check Rizzle. I actually make it $180 to go. My opponent thinks about it for a little bit, but looks like my sizing isn't too big, and they're going to be coming along with a call. So we're going to be going to a turn, and it comes a beautiful 8 of hearts. What a beautiful turn to see after putting in that check Rizzle. It's amazing. Not only did I just hit my backdoor flush draw, I also hit a backdoor straight draw as well. So any heart on the river is going to give me a 10 high flush, and any 9 on the river will pretty much give me the essential nuts, as long as they don't have some random. I mean, they're not going to have queen jack, because that's not going to call my check raise that much on the flop. It can call, but it's just not too many combinations of that, basically. And for them to show up with like jack 7, I mean, that would just be insane. They're not going to ever have jack 7, so we just would be worried about queen jack if we get to the river and we see that. And on the turn, I'm continuing my story. I'm not slowing down. We're loading up another clip, and I decide to put out a bet of $330, sizing up here on the turn. And my opponent does think about it for about 20 seconds and seems like they're still not convinced. They still feel like they have the best hand. They're putting in the call. So we're going to be going to the river, and well, behold, my lady comes in on the river, the queen of hearts. We just river a 10 high flush. We are only obviously losing to a jack high flush, king high flush, and ace high flush at this point. There's not too many combinations of those hands. I am feeling pretty good here. No way in hell I am going to be checking. So I'm going to the tank a little bit. I'm just thinking about my sizing, make sure I calculate in the pot right. And after all of that deliberation, I do load up a massive bet here. I make it $800 on the river. My opponent this time does not call immediately. They actually go into the tank, and they are thinking, I'm just hoping, like, just call, just call. I don't really see them raising too much here. Like I said, it's going to be hard for them to have a higher flush to me. But they're tanking, and after a minute of taking, they do finally flick in the call. I turn over my 10-7 of hearts for the flush, and they immediately just muck their cards. I mean, this session is going beautiful so far. Love to see it. And Valentine's Day came a little bit late this year, but we do love heart flushes, of course. If you're a fan of Valentine's Day and you like that hand and line I took, make sure you give me a thumbs up in this video. I would greatly appreciate it. And for this hand, we're going to have some big blind versus straddle action, some blind versus blind, straddle versus blind, third blind, whatever the hell you want to call it. We're in it. Let's get it. It does fold all the way around to the big blind, and they're going to be putting in the open against my straddle of $20. They make it $60 to go. We have queen deuce of diamonds. Hopefully diamonds are forever, or ladies are forever. Let's see it. On the flop, we put in a call, so we're going to be going heads up to a flop of 10-5-7 rainbow. That is not what the doctor ordered. This is horrible. No diamonds. Well, there is one diamond, so we can hit 2 more for a flush, but no lady on board. Looking pretty rough here. And my opponent this time around does decide to put in the check out of position, even though they are the pre-flop aggressor, so they're not putting in the C-bet. And this time around, not having much going on. I could stab here and take the initiative, but I decided to chill a little bit. I actually put in the check as well. We go to a turn, and it comes the 10 of diamonds. Love to see it. The top card did pair, but now we actually do have a flush draw. So hopefully diamonds are forever. Maybe we can still hit a queen on a river to take this pot down. And now my opponent decides to be a bit aggressive here. They do put out a bet, but just a really small wager here, roughly 30% on the pot on. So they just put out a bet of $40, and I'm not going to be going anywhere. I actually did think about, should I raise this small bet? But I'm like, you know what? I'm still just in chill mode. Let's just put in the call. So I do, and we're going to go to the river, and it comes the 5 of diamonds. So diamonds are forever, but this 5 is actually not the right diamond I wanted to see. So now if for some reason my opponent did play a check on the flop with their 3rd pair, they do now have a boat on the river. And if they did play a check with a weaker 10 or even a strong 10x, etc., they also have a boat on the river. So when this river does come, they actually do put in a check, and I actually go into the tank because of those reasons. There are a decent amount of hands that I'm going to lose to here, and if I do decide to bet, I'm basically only aiming to get called by some pocket pairs like 6s, 8s, 9s, jacks, things of that nature. Maybe I can get called by like a 7x, or basically ace high. King high is definitely not going to make it in the calling range here when I bet. So weighing all of those options and just weighing how this run out and this board and line happen, I decide to just chill, and I do just check back, and my opponent does turn over ace high. And funny enough, when I throw my cards to actually show that I have a flush, it actually flipped over and I almost mugged, but I immediately said, no deal, I have a flush. I have a flush. They did turn it over and show it, so I do take it down. So yeah, maybe my opponent calls there sometimes with ace high, but it's all right to check back here sometimes. And we are at a new table now. I did request a table change when I first sat down, and trust me, ladies and gentlemen, I never do this, but I wanted to experiment with this and see if I can maybe get a better table. Let's see how it plays out. And for the first hand at this new table, I do wake up with queen 5 of clubs. In the straddle, we are suited, and once again, we're going to have some blind versus straddle action. It does fold all the way around to the small blind this time, not the big blind, the small blind. And for some reason, they decide to put out an open to $100, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? $100? That's actually like super big. That's 5 extra straddle. But me having a lady in my hand and it being suited, I say, F it. I'm here to battle. I have a lady. I have position. Let's get it. I flick in the call. So we're going to go heads up to a flop of queen jack 5 rainbow. So we actually do flop 2 pair, but it's not top 2 pair. It is top pair and low pair. So that's still pretty good though. We can actually win this hand a lot. And to start out, my opponent continues their strong polarizing range here, just saying they have a really good hand. They start out with a 50% pot bet here, out of position, continuing their aggression, and make it $100 to go. And I think this time, you know what, I'm not going to raise here. I'm just going to be playing passive. I'm going to flick in the call because this is looking pretty super fucking strong here. So I do flick in the call, and we go to a turn, and it comes the 8 of hearts. Not the best turn, obviously 10-9 suited just got there, but them opening 5x pre, I don't really see them having 10-9 suited. People just don't have 10-9 suited when they open 5x pre. Just doesn't make sense. So I'm not really worried about it. All I'm really worried about is them basically just having a better 2 pair. I'm still ahead of their kings and aces and stuff of that nature. And on the turn, my opponent is not slowing down. They decide to put out a pretty big bet here, and this time they make it $300 to go, starting to size up even more above that 50% pot bet. And once again, I decided to just chill because they are repping a pretty strong range here from pre-flop and even on the flop and on this turn. So I'm just going to be putting in the call. I flick it in, and we go to the river, and we see the bad news. This is not the time I wanted to hit my 8-ball corner pocket. Not what I want to see. The board peers on the river. Are you kidding me? Now I no longer have 2 pair. Well, I have 2 pair, but y'all get what I'm saying. I just got counterfeited. Now my 2 pair queens and 5s are now 2 pair of queens and 8s with a jack kicker. I don't even have a kicker anymore. This is fucking ridiculous. Are you kidding me? And to make matters worse, I now even lose to pocket kings and aces because they're going to have 2 pair with aces and 8s, and I just have a pair of queens with the 8s on the board. Not looking pretty good here. Luckily, my opponent doesn't put me in the blender here, and they actually just put in the check, We're not 100% sure what I would have done here if they actually put out a bet. Would have been dependent on their sizing. But yeah, luckily they do check, and I'm like, okay, I just got counterfeited. There's no fucking point in betting. I'm just gonna be putting in the check back, and I do. And they turn over, and I see the bad news. Are you fucking kidding me? They had pocket queens, my ladies. How do I lose to my favorite hand? This is like not a thing. How can I lose? They actually boat up on the river. They had me just drawing dead basically from the flop unless I went running quads or some shit with fives. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But yeah, I actually do lose to my favorite hand, but it's okay. I still love the ladies. And the crazy thing is there, if you think about it, the ladies actually still helped me out there. Because on the river, the board peered, thus saving me money. Because if the board never peered in a bet, I would have just called and I would have lost even more money. So my ladies did cost me a little bit, but they did not cause me 3 streets of massive betting. I'm not complaining. And for the next pot here, we're going to be playing one of my favorite things, as usual, a bomb pot. But this time it's not going to be a double board. It's going to be a single board bomb pot. Switching it up this time a little bit. And we're going to be going 2-day flop 5 ways this time around. And the flop is going to come 9-9-3 rainbow. We are in small blind, so we actually are going to be first to act here with pocket jacks. Looking pretty good here so far, but obviously ranges are infinite in a bomb pot, and any player can have pretty much any 9x, so we do have to tread a little bit carefully here. And being the first to act, I do start out with a check in small blind. Person in big blind actually puts out a bet of $100. The other 3 players at the table fold, and when it's back on me, I decide to just put in the call. Turn brings in the jack of spades. We jack them. We boat up on turn. We pretty much have these stone cold nuts at this point. I mean, obviously somebody can have quad 9s, but come on now, we're not even worried about that. If you have quad 9s, you can take my entire stack and we'll just rebuy. And after jacking them on the turn, we do put in the check, and my opponent actually does snap check back here, and we go to the river, and it comes the 4 of spades. And I decided to be a little bit sneaky this time, but I actually do not like my thought process here. Because the thing is that my opponent did pretty much snap check back turn. Obviously, if they really did have a 9 with a flush draw being out there, they would have bet. Just draws are starting to come in, you know, of that nature. And just mainly, like, why would they check back so quick if they really had a decision to think about? So it's definitely a little time and tell there with my opponent. And because of that, I would have just loved to see myself bet the river to see if they can actually put in a call. So I did get a little bit trappy. I do end up, at the end of the day, putting in the check. And my opponent just pretty much checks back, like, after 5 seconds. I guess they just had nothing to bet with. Maybe they just had some 3x or whatever. But yeah, turn over my pretty much pocket jacks, my boat, and they pretty much just muck their cards. So we win the pot. I really don't like the fact that I let them get away with checking back river. And also I should have paid more attention to that snap check back on the turn. And for the next hand, the $20 straddle is actually going to be on. And we wake up with king, queen of spades in a low jack. It does fold to me, and I open up to $50, and we're going to have multiple callers here. Pretty much going to be a big-ass family pot. Hijack puts in the call. Button puts in the call. Small blind puts in the call. And then even straddle says, fuck it, might as well come along with the call and see a flop for only $30 more, right? So we're actually going to be going 5 ways to a flop of a 9, 3, 6, 2 spades. We are drawn to the second nuts here. If we can hit a spade, we will have the second best flush possible, ladies and gentlemen. And to start out, small blind puts in the check, straddle puts in the check, and I actually, since we're massively multi-way here in this family pot, I decide to take the more passive route and chill a little bit. I put in a check as well. And hijack actually puts out a bet of $70 into the pot. Cutoff actually comes along with the call. Sorry about that. It was cutoff and not button. So cutoff actually does call there. And actually the small blind and the straddle folds. And I have a decision here. I can put in a call, or I can do something that's going to be a little bit or a lot of bit more fun. We're going for it. We're putting in the check rizzle. We're not going 3 ways to this turn. fuck that. We make it $300 to go, a massive check raise, pretty much over 4x what they just bet. We're putting money in the middle. We're ready to get it. And hijack actually does come along with the call this time, but cut off actually does fold. So I really do like that result there. Instead of going to the turn 3 ways, we are now going to be going to the turn just heads up, and now we can just battle one opponent. And the turn actually comes a 6 of diamonds. Obviously not the turn that I wanted to see here, ladies and gentlemen. Pretty rough turn, but we are still drawing pretty well. Maybe a king could be good, a queen could be good, and obviously a spade is going to be pretty good as well. So with this turn coming off here, like I said, we're heads up. I actually am going to be still putting on the pressure. I don't have much, but I am going to be putting on the pressure still and keeping my foot on the gas. So I do put out a wager and I make it $250 to go. And my opponent actually doesn't make as quick of a call as they did when I made the check Rizzle on the flop. They actually tank for like 1 whole minute. And at this one, I'm like, yo, what are they thinking about? They're really going into the tank here. And eventually, after a little bit over a minute, they actually do muck their cards. And they pretty much asked me, is this hand going to make the vlog? And I said, yeah, of course, it definitely is. And they actually were kind enough to let me know that they actually had 8-7 suited in this hand. It didn't have 8-7 of spades, of course, because obviously they would have called, but it did have 8-7 suited. So they were drawing pretty thin there on the turn. I like their fold, and of course, I like my play. Did you like the line that I took with that hand? Would you have played it a different way? If so, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And for the next hand, we wake up with pocket aces and low jack. Love to see it. And the $20 straddle is on. Let's hope that we can get into a very big pot. It does fold all the way around to me in low jack, and I open up to $50. Hijack, the same person I just battled in that last hand with king queen suited, actually puts in the 3-bet to 150. It does actually fold all the way around to me, and we are playing very deep here, ladies and gentlemen. Almost $4,000 effective. So that's basically roughly 200 big blinds. So you already know what time it is. We're going to be putting in the 4-bet with the best starting hand in poker, pocket aces. We make it $470 to go. And now my opponent in hijack actually doesn't react as quickly as they did when they put in the 3-bet. They actually tank for a little bit, maybe half a minute or so. And then I actually see him starting to grab chips. And I'm like, oh my goodness, they are grabbing chips. Like, my eyes are lighting up like a Christmas tree, but they can't see it. Heartbeat is starting to increase, but they can't see that as well. I am trying to keep my composure as much as possible when I see my opponent grabbing chips, and he puts in the 5-bet in position to $1,600. Are you fucking kidding me? Obviously, at this point, I have to have the best hand. Hopefully, they just don't have pocket aces. And with him actually putting in $1,600, that's pretty much almost half of my stack. So y'all know what time it is. We're not playing it slow. We're not going to call here. We're going to have an Archer Man moment. I'm going to be all in for $3,875. And my opponent actually just snap calls me. I cannot believe we get a call here that quick. It was so quick. I was like, they're either just going to have aces or they're going to have kings. Obviously, they're not just going to have ace king at this point with this line. And they do let me know they have pocket kings. And there's been some friendly table banter going on with this player, talking back and forth like we had that last hand and stuff like that. And they actually did ask me how many times I wanted to run it. And I did let them know in this spot, usually I do only run it 1 time with aces. I'm not the biggest fan of running aces twice, ladies and gentlemen. I just rarely do it. But if somebody's cool at the table, sometimes I do make the exception. I was cool with this person. Love talking to them. So I said, you know what? Let's run it 2 times. And they are happy to hear that. I'm happy with it. No problems at all. Let's actually go straight to this beautiful run out with $8,000 in the middle. Let's fucking find the hold.
Okay. So, okay, look at that. Fair fight. Look at that. Fair fight. Look at that. Oh! All right. Okay. Oh. Hold on. Oh.
And what an insane fucking run out. Are you kidding me? They actually had the king of clubs and the king of diamonds in their hand. And the first flop comes 3 clubs and they just need 1 club to just take half the pot. But they actually do manage to just brick out Brick City on the turn and Brick City on the river. And then we go to the second board and are you kidding me again? They hit the 3rd diamond on the turn. And they're drawing to a 4-card flush again on 2 different boards against pocket aces when we run it twice. But luckily, they brick again on the river. Love to see it with the 4 of hearts coming. I just won my biggest pot I have ever won at the Win. Shout out to the Win. Love this place so much with pocket aces against pocket kings. Love to see it, an $8 motherfucking $1,000 pot. Let's get it. And that had to be the sweatiest poker hand I played this entire year in 2023. I know you guys and girls at home definitely enjoyed that sweat. If you did, please go down below and smash that sub button. I mean, just won an $8,000 pot. What a big hold. Love to see it. And for the next hand, we're going to have another bomb pot at the Win. And this time is going to once again just be a single board bomb pot. I am loving these bomb pots. They're fun, whether they're single board, double board. I just love the fact that it switches up the game a little bit. And this time we're only going to be 4-handed. So we're going to go 4 ways to a flop of 10, 5, 4, 2 clubs in this bomb pot. And we have ace 10 suited. We pretty much flop top pair, top kicker. Love to see it. Just hoping nobody has some weird 2 pair. Once again, ranges and bomb pots are infinite, so we still have to tread carefully, even though we have a pretty decent hand. And to start out, small blind actually puts out a bet of $40. And I am in big blind, and I say, oh, this is a pretty small bet. Let's put in a raise. I actually do put in a raise in position to $130. Both other players at the table do actually find folds, and it does go back to small blind, and they actually come along and put in the call. So we're going to go heads up to a turn, and it comes the 7 of spades. Pretty crazy card here. Obviously, 8-6 just got there, but I can very well still have the best hand. My opponent actually does put in a check, and this is a spot that I actually did not like my decision here. In game, after I did it, I actually did decide to put a check back here, and I really just don't like it. I should have just bet again, and then we could have played rivers. I have position, I get to control how the hand ends, etc. So I just did not like my check here at all. But yeah, we do end up putting in the check, and we're going to go to the river, and it comes the Queen of Hearts. Not too crazy of a scare card. Least clubs did brick out. And then on the river, my opponent actually puts out a bet of $350. And just for some reason, I don't know why, it's like, you know, almost a pot-sized bet. And honestly, I would have loved to see myself make a call here. And I actually do go into the tank, and in game, I actually miscounted how much was in the pot. I actually did ask the dealer to spread the pot, but I just was, you know, I was just basically just too hyped off of that aces hand. The adrenaline was still pumping through my fucking body. So I just did not know how much was in the pot. I was just kind of losing it. So I actually thought my opponent put in an overbet. And because I thought they put in an overbet after tanking so long, I actually do end up mucking my cards because I didn't want to call the overbet. If they bet normal, I would have called. But now we see that they did bet normal based on the amount that's in the pot. But I just made a bad read. Like I said, adrenaline was still pumping, but it's all right. Whatever. We'll take the L on this one. No problem. And for the next hand, the straddle is going to be on, and we're going to wake up with 5-4 of hearts. What a pretty nice suited connector starting hand. And this time under the gun +1, the same person to my left that I've been battling today with the pocket aces and king queen suited, they're actually going to open up to $60, and it actually does fold all the way around to me. So we're just going to be heads up, and we're going to be making the call. And we go to the flop, and it comes ace 7-3, 2 diamonds, looking pretty good here. We do have a double gutter. We can hit a 6 for the nuts or a rubber ducky for the nuts. Let's hope that we can hit one of those things. And not being a pre-flop aggressor, I do start out with a check here. My opponent actually does put out a bet of $80, decent size, a little bit over 50% of the pot. And this time around, I decided to not go for the check raise. I'm just going to be putting in the call. And after I do call, we go to a turn and it comes the King of Hearts. Now things are starting to get interesting. We now have a heart flush draw as well as a double gutter, looking pretty sexy. And I put in a check once again. And now this time my opponent actually puts out a bet of $200. And I thought very hard about this one. I was like, you know what? This would be a great spot to put in a check raise. Like, it would be a pretty great spot. But unfortunately, I don't go for the check whistle this time. I actually chill and I said, you know what? This time I'm actually just going to be putting in a call. But I could have checked raise. Either or is perfectly fine in this spot. So I do flick in the call and we go to the river, and rubber ducky, you're the one. It comes the 2 of hearts. We flush up on the river, but now we only have a 5 high flush. I mean, it's pretty much the lowest flush I can possibly have besides a 4 high flush that's already also in my hand. So it is the lowest flush. Yeah, I get the point. Anyway, I do put in a check and my opponent does once again fire out a bet of $200. And this time I'm just going to just be flicking in the call. I turn over my flush and my opponent does, just so they had 10-9 offsuit. So they just had really nothing going on there. They just put out the triple barrel bluff. So we take down another pot from this person. We basically went 3 for 3, winning pots.
Going back to back
Against them. What a beautiful way to end this session. And these chips are looking beautiful as hell. What a session. I have my biggest session ever at the Win in Las Vegas. I finished with a profit of $5,750, which is also my biggest session ever at 510 with a $20 straddle on. Make sure you check out this next video, which starts off by me stacking somebody for over $2,000, and that's not the only big hand that I get into.